The next step to being an effective advocate is getting the word out, particularly through press and social media. The good news is, if you've been following along with this video series, you've done your research and are prepared to speak with confidence on your chosen topic, which means you're already in better shape than most people trying to get their voices heard on the internet. But the big question is, even if you're a well-researched expert, how do you get people to care? There's no one right way to do it, and every activist in the world has struggled with it. But here are some things to keep in mind. Be specific about what your cause is and what you're asking people to do. The more clear and direct you are, the less confusion there will be. Know who you're talking to. Whether it's a government official, a school administrator, your friends, or a company, take the time to do your research. Who are they? What do they stand for? This can help you figure out how to craft your message to have the most impact. Make sure your campaign is timely. Follow your issue closely so that you don't reach out too soon or too late. Rallying your troops in support of an issue that may not come to vote for another year is a quick way to lose their interest. Similarly, talking to a legislator after a bill has become a law wouldn't be very effective. Use the power of story. Stories help us connect to other people, so they're a great way to make your campaign feel real to your audience. If your research hasn't already uncovered some, take the time to talk to people who are being impacted by your issue and record their stories. Make sure you have their permission to use their stories and maybe consider changing their names to protect their privacy. For example, if you want your school to give more funding to the library, ask the librarians for examples of times when they weren't able to help students with a research project because they lacked the resources. Or talk to students who struggled to turn in a paper because the computer was broken and they didn't have a printer at home. After you've given your message some thought, it's time to start getting the word out. One way to do that is to contact local press by sending out a press release. Putting together a press release might seem intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple, I promise. A press release is kind of like an article about your campaign and why it matters to you, which you send to news outlets encouraging them to cover your story. They'll then take the information and quotes from your press release to write their own article, if you're lucky. Just because you sent a press release doesn't mean you'll automatically get coverage, but there are some basic guidelines to follow to help improve your chances. Press doesn't have to mean big national news outlets. Local press is often the most helpful for your campaign and usually easier to get. This is especially important to pay attention to if your issue is location-based. Familiarize yourself with the outlets and reporters you're pitching to. Different publications, as well as the reporters within them, all have different concentrations, so be sure you're reaching out to the ones that cover the topic you want to discuss. A sports reporter might be the first name you come across, but they probably won't respond to a pitch about net neutrality unless there's a direct sports tie-in. Be aware of the journalist's time by replying promptly to their emails and not spamming them with pitches. Play the clickbait game. I know, but a reporter is more likely to pick up your story if it has a tempting angle. Part of an activist's job is to figure out why your message is news, not just why it should be news. Why is it relevant? What will make people want to learn more? Also, make sure you're a reliable source of quotes and extra information if the reporter needs it. After sending out your press release, you can take media coverage into your own hands by posting about your cause on social media. To give you some pointers, we sat down with social media maven Maureen Johnson in a bright, cozy studio that didn't at all make Maureen look like a floating head.
Hello, Jack.
Hello, Maureen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jack. Should I be more relaxed?
That looks relaxed.
Let's talk about online activism.
Absolutely. So first question for you. What's your LinkedIn URL?
Whee! Why don't you ask me a serious question?
All right. How do you decide which platform to use for different purposes or for different audiences?
My answer is always, which one do you like? Which one is fun for you? Which one do you enjoy using? Which one, when you use it, does it feel like a good time, or do you feel really annoyed afterwards? Or like, oh, I hate doing this. Every time I look at it, I hate it. I like Twitter. Twitter's, for me, a really good medium because I just like to talk. Nobody wants to hear just buy my stuff. You're supposed to have a message. I don't have a message. I do not have a message. I do not have a platform. I do not have talking points.
I think that's solid. I mean, because I think the most important thing about like social media is to be authentic.
Or at least seem to be.
Seem to be human.
At least seem to. Just try to act like you're not a robot.
Do we need to charge Maureen again? I can imagine you have a lot of different types of people who follow you on social media because you've got all of your, younger fans of your books, but you've also got, publishers or, those sorts of more normal people.
Publishers
maybe.
who follow, who I assume are like, what is she
more
doing?
Serious.
What is she doing?
Yeah. So I mean, like, how do you balance that?
Monitors.
Do you care about that? Like, is there one of those audiences you particularly?
No. Nope. I like anybody who comes along.
Yeah.
Anybody's fine.
Just do your thing.
Yep. I feel like, if you try to worry too much about who you want to talk to, you're going to miss out on talking to some interesting people. All sorts of people are going to come along. Now, if trolls come along, that's a different So
Yeah.
that's a different issue.
Yeah.
In which case, blocking is your friend, and if necessary, reporting is your friend. Because I have had some abuse issues. If I've posted something people think is controversial and it's been picked up, like I try to shut that down as quickly as possible and not give them any oxygen.
Don't give them any attention, because that's all they're really looking for, is for
Feel
their
safe,
voice to be heard.
Feel safe. Feel safe. Be safe, feel safe. But largely, I think you will be. I think there are ways, and especially if we all work together, I think there are even more ways. Like I'm trying to remember, there's a new organization.
Is it Heart Mob?
Heart Mob.
Yes.
Like that, I think, is a great idea, and I think there will only be more things like that in the future.
But you were also saying, you don't really think about specific audiences, because then, you might be missing out on certain people you could be hearing from. I think that's a really great point, especially talking about advocacy, because you don't want to just be like talking into the echo chamber.
Talking to the choir.
Yeah.
And don't assume that you know what people think. People aren't just one thing and I think we live in a world now, especially, that seems like you're either this or you're that.
You got to remember that these aren't just numbers. It's not just your audience. These are actual human beings behind every username.
And you can't judge people based on, say, a single tweet.
Yeah.
Or a single way that you view them, or a single thing that they've said. And also, people make mistakes.
Absolutely.
So, and making a mistake online, like if you've ever felt like you've made a mistake online, you're like, oh God, I made a mistake online. Now everything's ruined forever. It's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
Yeah, and the important thing is to recognize that you did, learn from it, apologize for it, but don't feel like it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And one thing that you are really great at, especially on Twitter, is balancing lighthearted humor and like important
Am I good
serious
at that?
issues. I think you are. I think you're successfully doing it. Yeah, well done.
I do switch sometimes very quickly between one topic and another, one tone and another, because I just do.
Because you are a complicated human being. Just like everyone else.
I am a human and not
yes.
not a robot. Can I relax again?
Yes, you can relax again.
I feel so relaxed.
Speaking of, being allowed to relax, do you feel any restrictions within your social media when you're trying to get your message out?
This is not that comfortable.
Another great thing that you did on Twitter once was a project called Cover Flip.
Yeah.
But this also sort of went beyond your Twitter feed and your normal audience and picked up a lot of press. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that process unfolded?
Cover flip has to do with the fact that, generally speaking, if you publish books and you identify as being a woman, or that your books are for they'll get classified, basically. The publishers have to figure out how to sell your book. It's not that they're wrong or bad or evil. It's just when you give a publisher a book, you give them a product. You're like, I made some stuff up and I wrote it down. And they're like, fantastic. Thank you for these lies that you've written down on paper. And they take your lies, and they have to figure out who wants to buy your lies. And they have to make a package for it. And so the package, authors, people often say, do you design your cover? No, we don't design our covers. It gets made in marketing, and they make something they think people will like, certain audiences will like, and they have to make guesses about who those audiences are. But one thing that tends to happen is they say, oh, this is something for girls, this is something for women, which means it gets a lighter package. The covers will always have someone with like their hair blowing in the wind. Guys will get like a thumbtack and a knife, and we'll get like someone hanging out in a convertible. Like, there's just this different imagery. What are we telling girls? What are we telling boys? What are we telling anybody who is neither a girl nor a boy? What's the message on that cover? And I ask people, I'm like, okay, take a cover and then flip it. So imagine that it's written by an author of the opposite gender. What might that cover look like? And people made all these covers. People made hundreds of covers, and it got lots of press. Like, people kind of took it as a thought experiment. So that was Cover Flip, and it's still being presented, and people still do it, and it still gets talked about. And I hope it continues.
Is there anything else that you would want to share with our viewers about using social media for advocacy?
I'm not a rapper-upper. I just like to...
And there we go. All right. Thanks again to Maureen for joining us. Do you want to take action this week? Try your hand at writing a press release for a hypothetical campaign and let us know how it went in the comments or by making a video response. Have you already done that before? Leave some tips down below with what you've learned. Thanks for watching, and good luck.